Hello and welcome back to another week of Discover North Korea. For the next hour, you will be here with me, Zoe from Zoe Discovers, and we are going to chat about a pretty fun topic. Where can you actually go in North Korea? So this was basically inspired by one of your questions, which was, what tour do you recommend once North Korea is open? Now, the borders to North Korea are still very much closed, but things are starting to look promising over the past few weeks, I suppose, with China kind of opening up. So, maybe it's too positive to say, but I'm hoping that maybe we can go back next year, guys. So, for a little bit of inspiration, I wanted to chat today about, where you can go to in North Korea, because most people think, hey, it's just Pyongyang, but there is so much more that basically, like when I was writing the kind of script for this, I mean, I don't actually have a script, but I have like some little pointers that I use. When I was writing that, I was like, man, I don't know if I can do all of this in one podcast episode. So I'm still going to try and keep it around an hour. I won't go into too much detail into each of the cities and stuff like that, but I'm basically going to divide it into sections of the country in terms of pretty much like north, east, south, and west, where you can visit and a little bit of what you can do there. But I will then record another several episodes over the next few months, I suppose, about going into these individual cities and into these individual areas so we can explore them some more. Because honestly, there is so much to do in North Korea. I've been in and out almost 30 times, and I feel like I have barely scratched the surface. Like, I've been around Pyongyang a lot, and I guess there are some places that I visit more than others. For example, the DMZ, stuff like that I feel like, okay, yeah, I've I've seen this now, like, this feels nice and normal to me. But there are so many places that I would love to visit that I haven't visited yet, or some places that I would love to return to. So we're going to cover all of that in today's episode. Before we get stuck in, though, I want to say a big thank you for coming back. This is episode 7. Yep, episode 7. Thanks for joining me again. Last time we chatted about... If you do have any guest recommendations for the podcast, any questions, any comments, anything like that, then please do email me on zoediscovers@gmail.com. Alternatively, you can contact me on Instagram @zoediscovers or @zoediscoversnk. You can also find me on Facebook and TikTok, but I don't really reply there. So yeah, if you want to get in touch, Instagram or email. Now, if you are listening in order, if you came here from the last episode, we were chatting about like getting into North Korea, right? We were chatting about whether to take the plane, whether to take the train, and also just what this experience is like. And I would recommend, I don't know, to give you a bit of context, I would recommend going and listening to that first, because it kind of flows nicely. First we were talking about getting into North Korea and how the best way is to do that, what that's like, and then now we're going to chat about life inside North Korea, what it's like, where you can go, and also a little bit of travel around the country. I do, however, want to start off with an anecdote that I missed out last week, because I've been in and out of North Korea a lot. Like, I've taken that trip around like 50 times, more than 50 times, because you're going inside and then outside again, right? So I have a lot of stories from there, and I tried to save like the best stories for the podcast last week, but I do have one more story that I kind of missed off, which I thought I would start with today. So when you enter North Korea, right, I didn't actually say this, but usually what happens is when you enter in by the train, you go from Beijing to Dandong. We covered that, right? And then from Dandong in China, you go into Sinuiju, again by the train. Now, what can happen here sometimes is that during this transfer, so you get off the train in Dandong, and then you need to buy a new ticket from Dandong to Pyongyang. Basically, like from Sinuiju to Pyongyang, actually. No, from Dandong to Pyongyang. But what can happen sometimes if you don't buy the tickets in time, or, if it's a really, really popular time to go over to North Korea, for example, during a Chinese holiday when a lot of Chinese people are going, then some tickets can sell out, right? So one time when I was heading in for May Day, which is a very popular time, the ticket from Dandong to Sinuiju had sold out. this is problematic because that's a pretty crucial part to getting into North Korea. However, there is another option. You can choose to drive over this border because there is a bridge. Obviously, there's a bridge that takes you over the train. The border cutting up Dandong in China and Sinuiju in North Korea is just it's a river. It's kind of like a natural land border. There is a bridge that goes over this, and the train usually goes over the bridge, but there's also a road that you can drive over. This is also used for things like imports and exports and stuff like that. Lots of trucks and stuff going over. So, I've only done this once, and man, I probably won't be repeating it. It's one of those that's a pretty special accident, a pretty unique experience. So basically, we got the bus over from Dandong to Sinuiju. Now, there's nothing exciting about that, except there were so many cars and buses and trucks going over that bridge when, like, the crossing kind of opened. Basically, after we got to Dandong, we went straight to the bus. We were held up in such a queue that we missed the train. So basically, we were stuck in Sinuiju. Actually, it was me and another tour group. So there was about, like, I don't know, maybe 30 or 40 of us in total. And yeah, we missed the train. We were stuck in Sinuiju. And basically what had happened was the guides who were coming up, who we usually meet in Pyongyang, they knew that we were getting the bus. So they'd come up all the way to Sinuiju to basically kind of make sure that we get on the bus and then on the train okay. Obviously, that didn't happen, so thank God we had the guides already with us, because I don't know what would have happened. I think there's a bit more of a rigorous customs check as you're leaving China when you get the bus. Either way, it really held us up, and we were like literally like sprinting through trying to get through this customs check and stuff like that. Man, like, we so nearly got it, but anyway, we missed the train and the guides were there, so that was all fine. And then it was a kind of case of, okay, what do we do? Do we stay here in Sinuiju for one night? Do we, what are we gonna do? In the end, we basically got the bus down. So we drove all the way down from Sinuiju, like kind of northwest of North Korea, not like super north. Have a look on a map. It's kind of more in the middle-y, I guess. Anyway, it's west, it borders to China. And we had to drive all the way from there to Pyongyang. Now, this was not going to be such of a big deal because actually the train is super slow. And we were under the impression that we actually might get there quicker than the train because, like the train goes ridiculously slow. So we thought it was a good thing. So we left at about, must have been, what was the time about now? Early morning, maybe about 10 or 11 by the time that we actually started to set off, because this was all unplanned and stuff. So we had to spend like a couple of hours, sorting out stuff. The guides quickly, like, because there's an office, like there's their tourist office, the KITC office. They also have one in Sinuiju. So this is how we were able to like get the buses and get everything planned and stuff like that, because we needed then tourist buses, right? Like we couldn't just like get a bus out of nowhere. So we got the buses together, and then for about like 40 people, and then we got also everyone's meals and stuff together, because like I said, it was like maybe 10 or 11, I really can't remember. And so people would start to be getting hungry soon. So we got packed lunches ready for everyone. And we must have set off around 11 o'clock, even though we kind of started early in the morning, but by the time we got all this together. So anyway, we then started our journey, driving through really unseen areas of North Korea. Honestly, one of the most random experiences I ever had. It was all fun and games. Until, it took about like 10 hours or 11 hours in the end. That was not cool. We were absolutely knackered. Everyone was knackered by the time we got back to Pyongyang. And then also we still had to have dinner. That turned out to be a bit of a mess. But the experience along the way, I would say looking back, like I didn't feel it at the time, we were so tired at the time, but I would say looking back, it was such a fun experience and really, really unique. I don't know if the tourists like really appreciated it because they were probably really tired and really hungry and probably a bit pissed off. I don't know. I, however, was like, yeah, that was a super cool experience. At least looking back now, I definitely am like, that's a cool experience because you really don't get to see some of these areas. We drove through some random places. The reason it took so long is because a few of the roads were closed off that would have been, quicker. There were so many roads that were just in pieces. We drove through rivers, like flooded roads that like I really was like, this bus is not built to go through this. So when people tell me that, they only let you see what you want to see, of course, like I have seen beautiful buildings in Pyongyang, but then I also travel through the countryside and see some stuff. Like those are the real hardcore areas of North Korea. Of course they exist. But there's it would be strange to take a tour group there because there's nothing there. You can see some areas like this when you're traveling down to the DMZ or like traveling to some more undiscovered areas or like some least visited areas, more in like countryside towns and stuff, which you can go to. And when you go to these areas, you might see some roads like this or some just countryside, just nothingness. But it would be strange to, take a tour group here. So this is another reason why you don't get to see these areas so much, just because why would we bring you there deliberately? But yeah, no, that it was rough. And, when it started to get night, this is one of the weirdest experiences I've ever had. Like, when just something like irks you and you're just like, what is happening here? Was about like 9 or 10 p.m. at night. Maybe not that late. Maybe it was definitely dark, like very dark. So maybe anytime between 7 and 10 as we were heading into, still driving to Pyongyang. And I just remember like we were taking a pee break because, 10 hours on a bus, there's no toilet. You definitely need a wee. And like, two big tourist buses stop in the middle of a random country road in North Korea. And, everyone gets out and then starts to find a safe place to pee. And I look around me and there's just people standing everywhere, like Koreans. And I'm not just saying that, like, it wasn't like we stopped in an area that was like people were standing around, like watching us, minding us. Like, as we'd been driving down the road for the past like half an hour or whatever, I'd noticed that there were like people lining the street, like, and not like tons of people, just every so often you'd see like a person or a few people. And I'm like, what are they doing? And then when we got out of this tourist bus, like everyone's going to pee in like the bushes and stuff, like no one seems to care. And I'm like, how often, like I was probably like between like, I don't know, 5 and 20, I really can't remember, just like people dotted along the side of the road, right? But like they didn't care that the like just random two massive tourist buses just got out and like tons of tourists are just now peeing in the bushes. Like everyone was just standing there doing their own thing. I have no idea what they were doing. Were they waiting for someone? Were they waiting for a lift? Were they waiting for, I don't know, were they just chilling? It's just one of those things that I guess I'll never know. And also one of those things that like adds mystery to it, but it could also be something terribly mundane. And like that sums up a lot about North Korea. Some of these things, like, you have no idea why people are acting like that, but it might just be for the most normal reason. Like, maybe they're trying to hail a cab or something. But at the same time, it could be some kind of interesting reasons. Maybe they're like waiting to meet up with people in the dark of night and stuff like that. You just never know. But it adds mystery to it because it's North Korea. But anyway, hey, so in the end, we got to Pyongyang, very tired, and carried on the rest of the tour. But that was just a little bit of an anecdote. I think I chatted way too long for that. It was good fun. But now let's get into the proper stuff. We're going to talk about what you can do, where you can see, and all those things in North Korea. There's honestly, the possibilities are endless, from kayaking on the Taedong-gang, which me and Mr. Lee did in summer 2019, good fun but very tiring, to, things like going across the whole country on the train, not on the bus, would not recommend that. Firstly, I'm going to kind of break this down into two sections. I'm going to go over like the types of tours that you can go on, because there's like a bunch of like different types of tours that you can do. And then we're going to chat to like about where you can go. So you guys know that when you go to North Korea, you have to go on a group tour, right? This is like the general thing that everyone does, but there is also an option to go on a private tour, This basically gives you more choice. You can make your own itinerary. It's way more expensive, but you have a lot more flexibility. It's way more expensive because basically it's just you and 2 guides. So you have a lot more expenses, in contrast to like a tour of like 20 or 10 people for 2 guides, right? But with the private tour, you're not usually accompanied by a Western guide. So like, i.e. like me, it will just be you and the North Koreans. And like, that's fine, you might prefer it like that, but that's just what you get with a private tour. You can basically like use an itinerary from a different tour that you've seen. Maybe you want a private tour because you don't like group tours. Maybe you want one because you don't like chatting to other people. I can relate, don't worry. Or maybe you want one because the dates don't fit, but you do actually like the look of another itinerary. Or also maybe you want a private tour because you like certain things. You've seen something and you're like, I want to go there, and it's not usually on the tourist like groups itineraries. Maybe it's a bit more specialized. We'll talk about specialized tours in a minute, but yeah, so that's private tours. Specialized tours, I'll just chat about it now. Specialized tours are basically like if you have something like that you are particularly interested in. We usually put on specialized tours when there is like some event on or something. Like, for example, like if you really like football, then maybe there's like a big football match on, then we might put on a football tour or a mass games tour or something like that if the mass games are on. And these are kind of the more specialized tours. You're going there for a specific reason, but also within these tours you will then see a lot of the main sites and stuff like that, depending on what it is. There may also be things like photography tours, and also you can like request these tours, right? Especially if there's a group of you, then it's a lot cheaper. Like maybe you're a group of photographers, you're a group of architects or something, and you want to like experience North Korea from this area, from this aspect. We can kind of make that happen. So do like a photography tour, do like a film tour and stuff like that. Anything from producing a documentary to also, just filming a vlog, and maybe you want to go to specific areas to do that. These things again will come under the category generally of like a private tour, right? But sometimes we do put them on like maybe like once a year or something. There might be like an architecture tour, a photography tour, or something like that. But it has to fit in with your itinerary. So you can also do things like study in North Korea for a month. You can, do like a food tour. There's so much. If you have like a niche that you like, I don't know, maybe you're a golfer or something like that, you can like contact Korea Tours, contact me, whatever, and just be like, hey, can you, I really like trains. Can you put something together for me? I'll send you to visit the train museum, stuff like that. Or we can specialize itineraries for people with like a niche that they want to follow. The next type of tour is like a holiday tour, and basically this is just like my categorization, just to make it simple. And this is not like how North Korea tour companies or like Western tour companies categorize stuff generally. I've just kind of tried to make sense of it in my head so it makes sense for you guys. The next one is like a holiday tour, right, which is based around the North Korea holidays. So that would be like things like May Day, Liberation Day, National Day. And whilst these holidays are only generally for one day, there are some holidays like the Day of the Sun, Kim Il-sung's birthday, that goes over several days. But whilst these are usually just one day, it means that you're going around a time that's like going to be really exciting in North Korea. It is just one day though, but like you'll spend the day, taking part in celebrations in Pyongyang. Maybe you'll go to the park and dance with the locals, have a barbecue in the park. Maybe you'll do some mass dancing, stuff like that. So you get to join in the celebrations. And I really like the holiday tours because it's just really nice time to be in North Korea when you can like see the locals like out having fun and just chilling, and like it just gives you the opportunity to mingle with them and see what life there is like on a national holiday. It's really nice, and I'd really recommend it if you can to join a holiday tour. The only like downside to them is they're usually really popular. So the tour groups in Korea Tours are limited to a certain number, so your tour group is never going to be too massive. But sometimes our tour groups like are smaller. And that's usually on the less popular tours. So if you come on one of these big popular tours, the chances are is the tour group is going to be full. There's going to be a lot of people. It's going to be hectic, but it's good fun. And these are the kind of tours that, I don't know if you guys have seen the Michael Palin in North Korea. Is it Michael Palin in North Korea, Michael Palin in Pyongyang? I think it's Michael Palin in North Korea. Don't know if you've seen that documentary, but that's a Koryo Tours production. Really, really good. They took him in. I mean, it's like a BBC. I think it's BBC. Koryo Tours took him in there. And that was a really bizarre experience because I was actually not working for Koryo Tours at the time. I was working for YPT. And I remember going into North Korea. So I was in North Korea with YPT instead. And not my guide, but a guide who I knew, basically was like, hey, because we were all in like one of the parks, like kind of celebrating together, like all the tourists and stuff. And one of the guides that I knew came up to me and was like, hey, do you know this guy, Zoe? And like pointed to Michael Palin, and I was like, yes? What on earth is he doing here? Like, of all the people, you just don't expect to run into Michael Palin in North Korea. Anyway, so Michael Palin went in, with one of these specialized tours with North Korea, like a filming documentary tour. And he went on May Day, which is my absolute favorite holiday. That's my favorite holiday because it's a great time of the year to visit North Korea. It's not too hot, not too cold. It's just a really fun holiday. So yeah, that would be my selection of that. The next one is a budget tour. So these are basically shorter tours. Maybe you'll have some kind of different accommodation, a little bit cheaper. You'll be going in on the train. Maybe it won't give you the option to go in on the plane. Yeah, they're basically like really short tours. And yeah, maybe just like things are just a bit cheaper, the hotels, stuff like that. The next one is a Pyongyang Marathon tour. Actually, the most tourists that go into North Korea are for the Pyongyang Marathon. If there was no Pyongyang Marathon, then it would have like maybe 1,000 foreign tourists less that go annually because it brings in like a lot of people. It's a great experience. Like I totally understand why people want to run it, but also you get like people going to just do the marathon, right? Not too interested in North Korea, but think like, hey, North Korea would be cool. I'm going to do a marathon there, right? You attract a lot of runners. So there are specific tours. There's so many different tours for Pyongyang Marathon, like ranging from like, just a quick go for the marathon and then back out again, kind of what, 2 or 3 day tours, stuff like that. And then like to kind of categorize the things further, you have like different lengths, right? So you've got short tours, mid-length tours, which are kind of like your average tour, or a long tour, right? So your short tour will be generally like 2 to 4 nights. Honestly, there are some tour companies that offer like just 1 night or 2 nights in North Korea, and I would really say like it's too short, like you've got to think the first day is just travel. You get into Pyongyang, regardless of whether you get the plane or the train, you get into Pyongyang at about like 5 p.m. You go and you have dinner, and then you're gonna like you just settle in and stuff, and you really haven't seen much. So that's 1 night already. If you only stay for 1 night or 2 nights, like you really do not even scratch the surface at all. And many people still come out with the perception of like, oh yeah, it's all fake, stuff like that. So yeah, generally you need at least 3 or 4 nights, and that's what the short tours offer. Within this, you might get to see things like, for example, you see the main sites in Pyongyang, and then you'll also go down to the DMZ. And that takes up a whole day, by the way. So if you are staying for, just 2 nights, there is no way that you can see the DMZ because that takes a whole day. That's a whole day trip. So if you want to go to the DMZ, it has to be at least 3 nights. Maybe you will also sleep at one different location, maybe at Kaesong, which is like basically 10 minutes away from the DMZ, so that might include that. But yeah, the short tours really only include the main sites in Pyongyang and the DMZ, North and South Korea border area. The mid-length tours or like average tours are anything between like, I would say 5 and 8 nights. Obviously, it kind of depends, but that's what I kind of categorize personally as your average tour. Within these tours, you'll see a lot of the main sites of Pyongyang. Maybe you'll have time to explore some like other locations or like be a bit more chilled in your itinerary. Like you can go to a bar, go to a coffee shop, maybe see some extra like sites, museums, go for walks, stuff like that. You'll then also go to the DMZ and maybe spend a night at the DMZ. Like we were saying before, you don't actually stay at the DMZ, but you stay in Kaesong, which is the closest city to the DMZ. And you might also spend some nights somewhere else as well. So depending how long you're staying and stuff, you might spend, I don't know, like 50 to 70% of your time staying in Pyongyang, but the rest of your time you're staying in different locations. With a 5 to 8 night tour, you'll have time to stay and explore other cities, maybe another city or 2 other cities. You could go along the east coast, and we're going to experience that. We're going to talk about that in a minute, in which case you could stay at 2 or 3 more cities. You could go down to Nampo. You could go to there's actually so many other things. So it really opens things out. If you stay for like the average length tour, you really get a lot more opportunity to see a lot more places. Things are a lot more chilled. I would really recommend spending that extra money, spending that extra time, staying at least for 5 nights, because you do get a lot more out of your experience. The long tour then is for people who like really want to spend more time in North Korea and see more of the country and get a deeper insight. So the long tour would be anything between, for example, like 9 to 12 nights is your average long tour, I suppose. And within that, you get all of the same things as, your mid-length or average tour and your short tour. So you see Pyongyang, all the main sites, the DMZ, stay in Kaesong. You'll also spend, you'll have a lot more time in Pyongyang as well. So you can see some more sites. You can get familiar with the city. But then this time, you might even have the opportunity to go further afield. Maybe you could take like an internal flight and go to the northeast. You could see Mount Paektu, you could see Mount Chilbo, something like that. Or it could encompass like everything apart from the northeast. Like, for example, you could go to the east coast, Hamhung, Wonsan. You could go and see the Masikryong ski resort. I'm missing one on the east coast. What's it called? Mount Kumgang, you could go hiking in Mount Kumgang. We'll chat about that in a minute. You could then also go to Nampo. You could also go to, Sariwon. Also go to Mount Myeohyang, Pyeongsong. There's so many different places that you could go to. So again, like the long tour gives you way more chance to really get on board with the country and experience a lot more. And then for the real adventurers, you could go on something that Koryo Tours offers called the Mega Tour. And I did that in 2019. Absolutely incredible experience. You basically go everywhere that you can in North Korea. And to be honest, actually not everywhere, because like the Mega Tour is like 24 nights. It's pretty much like just less than a month. It's like a few weeks long. But still, even if you go on this tour, there is obviously so much more to explore. Like, you can never explore a whole country in less than a month, right? It takes so long to explore the whole thing. But the Mega Tour provides the best insight that you pretty much can get to North Korea. Like, even better than if you were staying on a month-long language program, it wouldn't offer the same, because the Mega Tour is all about travel, and it's tiring. You are literally traveling 3 weeks. You take internal flights. You're traveling a lot on the bus. You go north, east, south, west. Basically, all of the best spots that you can see within this time, and some of the least seen spots as well. You go to some really remote locations. It's a very cool tour. If you have the time, if you have the money, honestly, it's a really unique experience. And I just want to say as well, like, the tour that you pick, like if you're after like knowing which tour you should pick, every tour suits everyone individually differently, right? It depends what you're looking for, length, price, stuff like that. Also, every tour company does them differently. Obviously, I think that Koryo Tours is the best tour company, and they have really extensive itineraries. You really get a lot for your money. So I'd really and they've been working there the longest, right? So, if you have time, like all the tours are up on the website for 2023 and also 2024. So just have a look, browse through. If you have any questions, feel free to give them or me an email. But that is the biggest insight you can get into the different types of tours, right? So now we're going to talk about where you can go. I threw in a few names before, and you're probably a bit like lost, like what did you just say? So I am going to go over those names that I threw in and talk about a few places that I didn't. So a few years ago, when I first started working at Koryo Tours, I kind of put together what I think is a really cool feature on the website, which is basically the biggest and most comprehensive collection of travel guides on North Korea and the most up to date. Feel free to have a look at these travel guides because this is basically what I am going to go through today. It's kind of like an area on the website where you pick your area of North Korea and then you can click into it and then it takes you and then it's like organized to see like the bars in that area, the restaurants in that area, the hotels, the attractions and stuff like that. So like you can kind of get lost in there and have a play around with it. But that's basically what I'm using as a guide today to go through these areas that you can visit in North Korea. So would definitely recommend having a look. You can find it in the travel guide section on the Koryo Tours website, which is koreagroup.com. So firstly, Pyongyang, you all know about Pyongyang. I am not going to spend too much time on this. There's tons to explore. It's not just the monuments and museums and art galleries and schools. There's also spas, shooting ranges, coffee shops, loads to do. I have been so many times, but I am very far from having done it all. It's, architectural wise, it's a very cool city, just cool to stroll around and experience as well. So that's Pyongyang, but your trip in North Korea will be so much more than Pyongyang, even if you just stay for a couple of days. But obviously, if you stay for much longer, it will be a lot less Pyongyang and a lot more about the countryside and the different cities. So the first one and the one of the biggest name drops that I had before is the DMZ and Kaesong. So you drive all the way down on the reunification highway from Pyongyang to the DMZ. This takes pretty much it's like a whole day trip there and back. On the way, you stop off at a rest stop. Actually, I did an Instagram post the other day inadvertently. I took a picture of 5 of the male guides chilling on the stairs of the rest stop on the reunification highway, and it looks like a band cover. And I captioned the photo and I said can anyone help me think of a name for this band cover? And then I pinned the location as the rest stop on Reunification Highway. And then I realized I inadvertently made the best album name, Rest Stop on Reunification Highway. Love it. If anyone has the music to go with that, let me know because I've got that album artwork and the name covered. So on the way to the DMZ, not all the way down to the southern border, you can come to a town called Kaesong, and Kaesong is a very cool town. It's the ancient capital of Korea during the Koryo dynasty. During the division of Korea in 1945, it was also part of the South. It was a South Korean city, but then the territory changed hands during the Korean War, and then Kaesong became the southernmost major city in North Korea. So due to this really unique situation, it escaped the heavy carpet bombing, which destroyed most of the cities in North Korea. So it leaves a lot of traditional buildings and stuff like that. It's really interesting to just kind of have a walk around. If you stay there overnight, you can stay in a traditional Korean hotel with heated floors and you sleep on the floor and stuff like that. I have a video on YouTube. It's called the Minsok Hotel. Very cool. Other things you can do in Kaesong also include the Koryo Museum, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, a former Confucian school, and now a museum of the Koryo dynasty, exhibiting various historical artifacts, statues, pagodas, and porcelain from that area. There's also a tomb that you can visit, which is another World Heritage Site. This is a tomb of the 31st king of the Koryo dynasty. And there's various other stuff that you can do in Kaesong that we won't go into detail today, but I will definitely do an episode on it. So that is the Kaesong and DMZ area, that is pretty much south of Pyongyang and almost at the South Korean border, just to give you some reference. Feel free to have a map in front of you whilst you listen to this. Next up, we've got the East Coast, which is one of my favourite places to visit in North Korea, I think. It's not too far away from Pyongyang, it's not too difficult to get to, and it's beautiful. It's gorgeous. So I would definitely say outside of Pyongyang, it's one of the best and easiest places to get to because it just gives so much. And there's basically 3 main places that you can visit. And that is Wonsan, Mount Kumgang, and Kumgangsan, and Hamhung. So Wonsan, first off, has a seaport on the east coast of North Korea, and it's the capital of Gangwon province. The government here has focused like investment on leisure facilities over the recent years, and it's a big tourist destination within North Korea. The North Koreans love to go there. It's also the home of the Wonsan Kalma Resort, which you may have heard of in the media. It's currently under construction or kind of finished. And it's got North Korea's second international airport, which is kind of open and also kind of not. On the way to Wonsan or around the Wonsan area, you can also visit the Masikryong Ski Resort, which is home to obviously a ski resort and a super good hotel, as well as you can visit a university here. There's an international children's camp, which is very interesting, and then you've got the Mangyongbong 92, which is a big ship that used to sail between North Korea and Japan. Very interesting, and you can now go on there. Very cool. Mount Kumgang-san is like a must-see for any foreign tourist visiting Gangwon province. Around the Wonsan area, it's a gorgeous like mountain range, absolutely beautiful. The Mount Kumgang area is, so we've gone like very northeast and south now, so like we are pretty much almost on the border of North and South Korea in Mount Kumgang. It was like the center for inter-Korean cooperation for many years, as it was the only area in North Korea which was accessible to South Korean tourists. So there was a period where South Korean tourists could actually enter North Korea to this area. Unfortunately, this is not permitted anymore, and a lot of the South Korean made stuff has now been demolished, which is a massive shame. But nevertheless, you can still enjoy hiking and go to the spa there. It's just absolutely gorgeous mountain range. I've got tons of pictures of Mount Kumgang on my Instagram, so have a look. Next up is, still in the Wonsan northeast area, is Hamhung. So that is the industrial center of North Korea. It's the second biggest city. In Hamhung, you can visit various things, a chemical fertilizer plant, and random stuff. And then you can also stay on the beach, like in these beach huts, beach houses. It's actually really, really nice. You can enjoy barbecues on the beach. It's a really cool experience, and really nice, and just, you know, another city to explore. If you're around that area, would definitely recommend it. Now let's go from the southeast and the east coast to the west as we explore the southwest, which I am going to include as Nampo, Sariwon, and Haeju. Nampo is my favorite. If you've ever heard me speak about my favorite place to visit in North Korea, you might have heard me say Nampo. And that's basically not because it's like gorgeous mountains, stuff like that, but just because of the whole experience in general. So if we're talking about like gorgeous mountains and hiking and stuff and like really stunning places, I would say Chilbo-san, which we are going to talk about in a minute. But Nampo is my favorite because it's a nice day trip or a quick stopover from Pyongyang. To be honest, I just really like it for its vibes. Like, it's got chilled vibes. The guides love going there, which, you know, obviously makes everyone really nice and relaxed. And we always have such fun in the hotel when we stay there. It's like basically this hot spa resort. And you know what? I was looking to make like some kind of vlog or put some pictures together of this hot spa resort. Because, you know, as my favorite place to stay, right? So I was looking for some content to see if, like, what I had. And I realized I had literally, like, no one single photo or video from Nampo apart from the petrol can barbecue. I'll speak about that in a minute. But basically because, like, I always treat that as my, like, time to chill, you know? So I never really take many photos and videos there. I just love it. Basically, Nampo is this seaside town on the southwest coast. You can go to the beach. You can go to the West Sea Barrage, visit sparkling water factory, and then in the evening you stay at this hot spa resort. You have like a petrol can barbecue, which is literally like you get fresh clams that have been collected that day. You arrange them on a stone around in like a spiral formation, and then like put petrol onto it and set them alight, and then eat them with a lot of soju. You have to have them with soju because otherwise, yeah, I think this soju helps you to not get ill from that. So anyway, it's a really nice experience, really good fun. And then also you have the natural like hot spa water each in your own hotel rooms, as well as there's also like a swimming pool there. It's very cool. Retro, hasn't been renovated since like the 70s or 80s. Very, very cool experience. Sariwon is most often visited on the way back from the DMZ. It serves as the provincial seat of North Hwanghae province and is a major center for North Korea's agriculture industry. Here you can visit the folk park. You can see Makgeolli grandma and grandpa. Honestly, like, if there's two people that I really miss in North Korea, these definitely come near the top. Sariwon in general is just like this, this really chilled out, nice little city. It's just another city to explore. There's not too much to do, but you can visit this folk park, which like you can climb to the top, and it gives some nice views over Sariwon. You can try on some traditional Korean clothes, and then also meet grandma and grandpa who make their own makgeolli and then sell it. It's really, really good if you've never had makgeolli before. It's basically, I don't know, someone named it as fight milk before. It looks like milk. It's kind of fizzy fermented rice, basically. When you look at it, it looks like fizzy milk, which can put off anyone, but it's not. It's great, and they make it themselves, so it's really cute. They're also absolutely lovely people, and one time I had the great pleasure of meeting their daughter and then also their daughter's son, so it's really beautiful to have those three generations there, and I really, really hope that they're still there when I finally get back. Honestly, beautiful people. So that's in Sariwon, and then Haeju as well. Haeju typically isn't on itineraries, but it's also possible to visit. It's situated like 90 kilometers north of the DMZ, like at the demarcation line, dividing south and north. So it's considered like a frontline city. There you can visit a farm and a hall. You don't really usually typically go there on a tourist itinerary, but it is available to visit as well. Next up, we are going to the northwest. So the northwest includes Pyeongseong, Hochang, how do I say that? Hochang, Mount Myeohyang, Anju, Sinuiju, Uiju, and Dongrim. I'm not going to go over them all. There's tons of places, but basically these are like the main cities that you can visit in this area. Mount Myeohyang is probably one of the most typical here on this itinerary. It's a really nice place to stay. Actually, it's North Korea's 7-star hotel. So random. I don't know if it's actually 7 stars, but like that's a thing that they say, I guess. It's in the mountains. It's absolutely gorgeous. So I didn't say before, but Kumgangsan is one of North Korea's 5 famous mountains. Mount Myeohyang, is also one of these 5 famous mountains. You can go for hiking around here. You can visit the International Friendship Exhibition House, which is basically an exhibition house where they house all of the gifts that have been given to Kim Il-sung, Kim Jong-il, Kim Jong-un over the years. It's a incredibly grand building in the middle of the mountains. Like it's you can't take pictures inside, which is such a shame, but like the building is incredible. And you can see some pretty cool, pretty odd, pretty spectacular gifts in there as well. Pyeongseong is a satellite city of Pyongyang and is the seat of the provisional government for South Pyongan province. It was originally built as a center for science and technology. There you've got a factory, revolutionary site, and a school to visit. You can chat with the students. Sometimes you can stay here. It's like, it's only a 40-minute journey away from Pyongyang, so it's a great option if Pyongyang is too full. Yes, it does happen. All of the tourist hotels can get too full, especially on things like the Pyongyang Marathon or like a big holiday. Sometimes there's nowhere to stay, so you have to stay in Pyeongseong, and it's just, a really nice little different place to stay. It's absolutely fine. And now let's head up to the northeast. So the northeast is a very cool place to visit. I've only been there one time, and I would love to go again. It is the least visited area of North Korea easily, and that's for many reasons. I think it's kind of a little bit more sensitive up there. It's also, it's hard to get to. With most things in around the East Coast and the West Coast, you can drive there from Pyongyang, but I guess like if you look at a map of North Korea, like it's big, like it's massive. And so when you're in Pyongyang, you can easily go east and west and south, but going up north, like it goes up north quite a lot, the country, right? So these areas can be harder to get to. You can get a train all the way up to the north and to the northeast, but it takes a long time, it's unreliable, and by a long time I mean days. So you're gonna want to fly up there, which is another reason for it being so least visited, because you either have to get a normal internal flight, which is possible. And in episode 10, I will chat to Greg about air choreo and about the getting an internal flight and stuff. I've also done it a couple of times, but Greg's the expert on that, so we'll chat about that. But in order to get up there, you need to either take like a normal flight, like get on a flight, which, you know, they can also get cancelled and stuff like that, or you charter a flight. And choreo tours do that sometimes. They charter a flight up to the northeast, and because it's a charter flight, there are not many tours. I think we only do like 2 or 3 tours annually to the northeast. I want to do them way more because I think they're amazing. Really, really interesting. Gives a totally different view on North Korea, and just gorgeous. So the places that you can visit up there are Cheongjin, Mount Chilbo, Chilbo-san, Daesan, Haeryong, Kaesong, and Mount Paekdu. So for those of you who have listened to me talk about North Korea before, you probably might know that Rason is the first place I ever visited in North Korea. I actually never went to Pyongyang in the first place. I actually entered the northeast through the north of China through near kind of Yenji. And so I only went to Rason. And Rason is a very cool place. It's a special economic zone. It's very unique. It's very different from the rest of North Korea. You can visit a market there, which is just something that you can't do in a lot of places in North Korea. It's the only market that you can visit in North Korea, like local market. So it's a very cool place. It's very chill. Like there's not too much to do there. I won't go into too much detail, but then we've got Cheongjin. Cheongjin is known as the city of being the center for heavy industry. You can visit the e-library, ride a trolley bus, and it's also the provincial capital for North Hamgyong province. Mount Chilbo is one of my favorite places, Chilbo-san. So another one of the famous 5 mountains in North Korea. You can stay in a homestay there, which is a very cool experience. You can enjoy Chilbo-san mushrooms, which are famous throughout North Korea. It's just a completely different part of the DPRK. Like it used to be way more strict. You know, you used to not be able to take photos outside the bus, stuff like that. But now that, I mean, last time when I went in 2019, they were super chill. Could take photos of everything. It's, you know, you're not in Pyongyang. You're far away from like all of the frequently visited tourist areas. So the local people, they're not used to seeing you. And you also just see things like, you know, it feels much more countryside-y. Like you've got people on like motorbikes that look like they're from the 80s, and then you know, roads that are a bit like, you know, a bit worse for wear. But then you've also got like incredible landscapes. You've got the beach, you've got the so in Chilbo it's like on the northeast coast, but like northeast. You've got the beach, incredible beach that you can swim in, very, very cold though, but you can go in summer. And just seeing Mount Chilbo, like it's one of the best hikes that I've ever been on in my life. And I don't say that because it's North Korea. Like it's gorgeous. You've got incredible, beautiful peaks that go on. The mountain range stretches on for miles and miles and miles and miles and miles. And then in the background, you've got, you know, beautiful ocean. And the best part of it, arguably, is that no one else is there. No other tourists. It's just you. And like when you go on this hike in Mount Chilbo, it's one path, so you can't get lost. So everyone's just going at their own pace. Maybe it takes you a few hours, but like you can just be like alone in the mountains, you know? Like as long as you don't stray off down a random path, you know, like into the woods, which I really wouldn't recommend on any hike. You know, it's just a really nice, peaceful experience. And I've got some photos on Instagram. I'd really recommend having a look on Google because it's just gorgeous. And I've only ever been once. I would love to go again. So Haeryong, and just touch on that briefly, it's the birthplace of Kim Jong-suk, who is the first wife of President Kim Il-sung and the mother of General Kim Jong-il. She's known as, you know, like the mother of the DPRK. You can visit a few revolutionary sites here, like, for example, the house where she was brought up. In Kaesong, it's renowned for its hot spas, which is really nice after a day of hiking through Chilbo-san or a day walking around Cheongjin. You can like visit Kaesong in between and have a little explore. Mount Paekju, of course, is another one of the famous 5 peaks in North Korea. The city around it is called Samjiyon, there's not too much there, but you can have a bit of an explore. No place is more sacred on the whole Korean peninsula than Mount Paekju. It's a place of, the North Koreans revere it as, the area where Kim Il Sung was born or whatever. There's tons of like mythology around that, I guess. I won't go into that now, but you can have a read up on that. It's a really sacred place, but it's also a really sacred place for the South Koreans as well. It actually borders, obviously it has a border with China, so you can visit it from the China side. But it's a very different experience. In the middle of Mount Paekju is a lake, Lake Chon, and it's just, it's a fabulous, beautiful place. If you manage to get good weather, you can see for miles around and just see down into the lake. I was so lucky. The time that I went there, and the only time that I went there, the weather was perfect, like literally not a cloud in the sky, which is really, really rare for the Paektusan area, because you're really high up, and obviously the weather can be quite changeable. Usually it's very cloudy, so I was so lucky. I hate myself for not taking a video and doing vlogs whilst I was there, but I hadn't yet. When I did this mega tour, it was in summer 2019, I hadn't yet started the whole like social media vlogging thing, so man, I need to do that tour again. But yeah, amazing. The Samjiyon Paektusan area as well is also of great revolutionary importance. It was the site closely related basically to the anti-Japanese guerrilla army, which was led by Kim Il Sung. There's a secret camp there, stuff like that. Very, very cool. If you do get a chance to visit Mount Paekju, then definitely go for it. It's historically very interesting, it's culturally very interesting, and it's just gorgeous. Very, very cool. We'll do a whole, episode on that. And that, I think, basically concludes it. I know it sounds like I kind of rushed through that, and that's basically because I wanted to cover all of the main areas, name drop all of the main areas at least, so that you have a kind of overview of the places where you can visit in North Korea. I think mainly because most people think that you can just visit Pyongyang, and I just want to highlight the fact that, like, you really can't visit all of the places in just one tour, because there's so much to see. And I mean, I just basically named some areas, provinces, and cities and stuff like that, but within those I'll do whole episodes on these areas. So there really is so much to do, and something for everyone as well, whether you like hiking, whether you like plane journeys, whether you like revolutionary sites, whether you like spas, stuff like that. A tour to North Korea is not just for the sake of going to North Korea. Actually, it has a lot to offer. So, like I said at the beginning, this topic was inspired by one of your questions: what tour do you recommend once it's opened? And hopefully, listening to this has kind of inspired you a little bit on that, because I don't want to answer this question for you. What tour you go on to North Korea depends on, personal preferences and also personal requirements, right? How long can you stay? How much can you afford? What kind of things you want to see? Do you just want to stay in the city? Do you want to do some hiking? Do you want to go northeast, southwest? Have you got time to take an internal flight? Have you got money to take an internal flight? Do you want to do any specialized things? Did you want to visit a golf course? Blah, blah, blah. Like all these things, on group tours, you can also have the option to add like one extra private day. So for example, if you wanted to go on a group tour, then you could say like, hey, I want to stay an extra day because there's actually some things that I want to see. Or like you could go on a tour to Pyongyang and be like, hey, actually I want to do some skiing. Okay, so like maybe if you go in February, you could be like, all right, well, I'm just staying like 2 nights in Pyongyang, but then also I want to add on like going skiing. So you can stay skiing for 1 night, that kind of thing. So, always just like ask your tour company, ask Choreo Tours, send them an email. You can email them on info@choreogroup.com. And it's not too early to start planning those itineraries. We're still alive. We're still chatting to you guys. We still have a lot of queries on the North Korea tours. It's not yet open, and it probably won't be this year. It might hopefully be next year. Let's cross our fingers. Who knows? It could even open by the end of this year. But just start planning things, because once things open, then it's gonna be full on. We're gonna be taking a lot of people. including me, hopefully, a few times. I'm so excited to go back. Anyway, that concludes this part of the episode. I wanted to conclude with a couple of questions that you guys have sent in. Actually, this was sent in by one of my patrons, Charles. So I want to answer a couple of his questions before we can conclude. So, question 1. What are the places that you would like to visit in the DPRK? So I don't know with this one if you mean like what are the places that I would like to visit that I haven't been to yet, or like what are my favorite places to visit, like what I like to visit. I think I've covered a lot in this episode, like the kind of places that I really like. For example, I just really like Nampo, cool vibe. I personally really like hiking, so I love going to Mount Kumgang-san, and also Chilbo-san. Like I said before, they're just mind-blowing, gorgeous places. So I really like going there, but because for me, like, North Korea is all about like people and the country. It's not about the history and the politics and stuff like that. Like, I really like people and places. So I do this in normal life as well. Like, my ideal is like I go and work in coffee shops and stuff like that. So I just love going to coffee shops or bars and just like sitting back and watching everyone, and you're just like soaking in the atmosphere, soaking in the vibe. So those are the places that I really like to go to in North Korea. Like, just normal places that people go to, going to the spa, going to the water park, getting my hair cut, random stuff like that that is really not exciting. But this is not limited to North Korea, I have to say. Like, when I go to other countries, like, museums and art galleries are not first on my list unless they are culturally relevant, like, or historically as well, because I think learning in context is good. But generally, like, I will spend a lot of my time just walking around, doing things that, like, the North Koreans do. I'm interested in that. And I don't know if you meant like somewhere that I would like to visit that I haven't already. But in terms of that, it's not a specific place, but I would really, really, really like to travel by train all across the country. Like, I find that really interesting, just doing like a full train tour, because I really like trains and travel, and that feeds into the whole, like, what I was just saying about just chilling and getting in with the vibe, hanging out with the local people. And also, like, just on the train you can like chill out with people, have some interesting conversations, have some soju and dinner together and stuff. So I don't mind that it takes like a few days on a train, but that's something that I really like to do that I haven't had the opportunity to do yet. And second question was, what are the places that could not be visited in the DPRK but that you believe it is reasonably foreseeable that could be visited in the DPRK in the next 5 to 10 years? Okay, so there is one province, honestly, I forgot the name of it. There is one province in North Korea that foreigners cannot yet visit. All other provinces are open to foreigners. However, Chinese people can visit this province. It's on the west, it borders China, and basically you can't, like, Chinese people can visit this province, and that opened in 2019, and I'm really bad for not knowing the name of it, but hey, 2019 it opened to Chinese people, and now I think it only opened to Chinese people because basically the border facility only has the ability to process Chinese visas. It doesn't have the ability to process like foreign passports and stuff. So that's the only reason it's limited to Chinese people. So I guess, within the foreseeable future, if not already, that will open to foreign tourists. And otherwise, let's remain hopeful that maybe the market in Pyongyang that could open up. And also, like, I was working on so many cool things that were gonna happen in 2020. The country is constantly opening up to more and more tourism, and I think it's reasonable to say, in the next 5 to 10 years, who knows, like, maybe we could even walk around by ourselves in North Korea, visit like tons and tons of places. I'd love to do things like a camping tour, motorbike tour, stuff like that. Like, actually, a camping tour is totally possible. I was chatting about it with my colleagues, and like we were trying to create it, but like the thing is it'd still be really expensive, and like you've got to think about where you're going to provide the tents. Are we going to buy all the tents and then having to bring them into North Korea? Like, these things are possible, but logistically it's just a bit tricky. They take time, but yeah, there's chance for a lot to happen over the next 5 or 10 years, and I'm really excited for where the North Korea tourism industry is going to go. It's only been getting, less and less strict, and I think, potentially by 10 years, yeah, let's see about walking around by ourselves, having more flexibility in itineraries and stuff like that would be cool. Very exciting stuff. So thank you for your questions, Charles. And if you have any other questions, then do send them in on zoediscovers@gmail.com. If you're interested in supporting this podcast and supporting all my social media channels and stuff, then you, like Charles, can become a patron. If you visit patreon.com/Zoe Discovers, I am there. You can just type that into Google as well, Patreon Zoe Discovers, you will find me. I really appreciate everyone who supports me on Patreon, because genuinely creating these podcasts and all the videos and everything like that, it would not be possible, and without your support. And I say that because, one, it shows me support that there are some people that really like this and really listen to this. So you've got the moral support, and then two, obviously, monetarily, it does help me out a lot, because things like this, they take a lot of time, and it's all time that I can spend otherwise doing work, which I need to make money somehow. So, thank you very much. And if you do want to consider becoming a patron, if you've got a few pennies to share, then go for it. If not, then you can just send me a message showing your moral support for the podcast, for the channel, and mainly also give this podcast a like and a rating and stuff like that. I really appreciate it. It's still a new podcast. We're only on episode 7, so anything like that is much appreciated. And that about concludes today. Just to go over those places where you can contact me again, you can find me on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook at Zoe Discovers or at Zoe Discovers NK. Email me with your questions, guest recommendations, anything that you want, just a chat on zoediscovers@gmail.com. And I hope that you tune in next week. Thank you very much for listening.